Hi everyone, I'm Sam from Electric Bikes Brisbane and welcome to our 4th annual Open Day. Today's Open Day is a little bit different to what we've done in the past because what you're going to learn today is some of the best bikes that you can go adventuring or touring on from an e-bike perspective and why. And we're very lucky to have some of our customers who are very experienced at touring here showing how they rig up their bikes for touring. So if you're thinking about getting into touring yourself, this is a great way of just sort of seeing all the different options that are available and how you might want to set up your own bike and what bike you might want to get. Also very happy to have Linda Cash here.
So the reason I'm here today with Electric Bikes Brisbane is to really talk about our Ocean Pool Odyssey, which was a charity bike ride we did during COVID. And I say we, myself and a few friends, basically riding the entire New South Wales coast from Eden to Tweed Heads, visiting all the ocean pools along the way.
And for those who are thinking about going caravanning, very popular activity here in Australia, we're going to show you how you can take your e-bikes on tour with you as well. From our perspective, when we talk about adventure and touring, there's a couple of different options you have in terms of styles of bikes. We're expecting that you're going to end up somewhere quite remote. And you're probably going to be riding for days at a time in some cases. So for us, that means ultra comfortable, long range, carries gear, very reliable. Handle pretty much any terrain you point it at, and that's what we mean by adventure bikes. In terms of the bikes that are available, they fall into about 3 or 4 categories. So there's a classic adventure bike. So these are our very long range, full powered bikes, fully equipped, lots and lots of comfort features on them. If we look at the bikes we've got here today, we've got some absolute classics and the go-tos in the e-bike world. Eureka Muller Super Delight, long range, dual suspension, Eureka Muller Supercharger, long range, even longer range actually, very comfortable sporty bike, and Eureka Muller Homage, and it's a step-through version which is a dual suspension, and you've got 1250 watt hours of battery at your disposal. They're probably the 3 go-tos if you're really going to do some fairly serious touring. We've also got some other great brands as well which have sort of come onto the market with those sorts of bikes as well. So you've got Moustache with their Weekend Dual, that's a dual battery, dual suspension, mountain bike style bike, very comfortable, long range. Focus have gone into the smart system with the 750 watt hour batteries on most of their range this year. So the Thron is a great example of a bike it's kind of built for touring, but you can also do a bit of mountain biking on the side as well. You can equip it if you want to, you can have it as a mountain bike. So changing categories, so I've just talked about the comfortable dually SUV style adventure bikes. You've also got the single battery hardtail, very sporty, capable, still long range for those who prefer a sportier ride. You've got, again, you've got Focus, the Aventura with a smart system and the 750 watt hour battery. Kalkoff have come out this year with a lovely step-through, smart system, 750 watt hour battery. And of course, your Eureka Mullers, Bianchi as well have got some great bikes in that range as well. The other category which is gaining popularity thanks to having a little bit of power but not too much because it keeps the bikes nice and light is the gravel category. These bikes are your classic gravel bikes, road style frames, fast, a little bit of extra oomph now with your batteries. And another bike which we're very excited about because it's representing something new which is coming into this space, and it's kind of ticking a lot of boxes because it's a lightweight, long range capable, and it's got some pretty cool technology in the battery which makes it really efficient, and that's the Orbeias. Caymans, which are their SUV, fully equipped touring bikes, and you've got the bikes like the Uran and the Rise, which make great tourers as well because they've got such efficient battery technology. The other one is the caravanning market. In this case, you can go both ways. You can either go for a folding bike, which fits neatly into a smaller space, and there's different bikes. So on the floor today, we've got the Go Cycle, which is capable of a little bit of gravel as well. We've gone to the other end of the spectrum with just a really fun adventure fat tyre bike as well, and that's the Earth Ant. So that sort of covers both ends of the spectrum in terms of folding, and of course there's other bikes which kind of fit in the middle in terms of wheel size and motor technology. Very useful for camping and caravanning. Adventuring, it's a wonderful thing to do with e-bikes. It really does make it so much more accessible, so much more fun, and you don't have to be like a super fit athlete to be able to do it either because you've got power. We're also looking forward to answering some of the FAQs which we received in the course of the registration.
So great question about planning routes or finding rail trails, etc. Well, there's a number, but in terms of where you can find things like rail trails, well, in Australia there's a great website called a great organisation called Rail Trails Australia, and they have an amazing website that has all the rail trails in Australia for you to research, see the maps, and then plan your journey and just go.
There's an excellent resource called Rail Trails Australia, which has fabulous information about all the rail trails in Australia and also some really good ideas about route planning. And also don't forget that individual rail trails also have, or other trails also have their own websites. For example, the Central West Cycle Trail has an awesome website which has downloadable GPX maps that you can put into things like Ride with GPS or Strava and actually then do some route planning yourself. So there are huge amounts of resources out there.
Also, our website is a handy resource. So we've got articles on there for some of the great rail trails and cycle routes in just about every state in Australia. Next question is, what's the best app for planning? And this is a very personal choice, to be honest, because there's a lot out there. From my own perspective, I use Google Maps. It does take me up the garden path a few times, but I combine it with all trails. I use Ride with GPS quite a lot. Komoot is getting better and better, and it's probably emerging as one of the best apps. And also Strava has just moved into navigation and planning, and for people to be able to save routes that others could use as well.
The app that I use the most is one called Komoot, which I have on my phone and also as a desktop program. It has a lot of already pre-planned routes that you can download. It's also got a great route planning service so that you can plan your own routes. I also use the Bosch eBike Connect app on my phone, which links to my kiosks on my bike, and so I can get turn-by-turn navigation.
When we first started planning the Ocean Pool Odyssey, we started with a basic map of New South Wales, so a standard map, and we looked at where all the various ocean pools were before we started to work on it digitally. So we wanted to travel between 50 and 80 kilometres a day, so we worked out roughly where we should start, and then we went to looking at some apps. We used things like Google Maps, we used All Trails, we used Ride with GPS.
What are the things that could go wrong that you should plan for to manage risks around issues with your bike while you're out touring? Particularly, relevant question, particularly in remote areas. Again, this is a planning question, and also comes down to the type of bike that you might choose as well. So you could opt for internal hub, belt drive, really high-end bike, and a lot of that risk gets reduced significantly. You might be a conventional rider and having ridden for years and years and years, and you're used to things like derailleurs and the usual bicycle equipment, and again, those options are available as well. With an e-bike, it's a bicycle at the end of the day, and your usual spares need to be considered. You are going to be putting it through a lot of wear and tear while you're touring. So
that includes tools and spare parts that to carry. So in my kit, I carry spare brake pads. Even though before any ride, I always make sure the brake pads are in good condition, but you never know that something could happen, and so having a spare brake pads. And also in my case, I have a bike with a chain, so I always carry a spare chain with me. Being prepared for things like punctures are important, so I've gone the extra step and have put a product in my tyres called Tannis Armour, which really minimises the chance of punctures, but just in case something does happen to get through the Tannis Armour, I do carry with me a tube of Velox, which is an emergency sealer, and that's only a $20 insurance policy that everybody should carry with their bikes. In terms of tools, well, I have the great multi-tool kits that you can buy, also some Allen keys, which are all important. Most e-bikes have Allen key attachments, so taking some Allen keys with you will be important as well.
Travelling sometimes as a single female on my own, I do often think about safety when riding in more remote areas. I do have an unbelievable partner who supports me with most of my cycling, and he's always my plan B. Quite often we do actually set up Google Maps so that he can see where I am at all times, but also I do carry some spares myself. I'm not a bike mechanic, but I do carry things like a spare tube. I have a standard multi-tool. I also do have some Tannis lining inside my bike tyres, and they're also filled with green goop. So the idea of that is to try and reduce the opportunity of getting flat tyres.
Probably the most common question was around managing batteries and range, particularly when you get into difficult areas. So I'd like to take a step back with this question because it's part of your planning, so having the bike that's going to do those sorts of distances. Top tip would be to make sure you've got a bike that's got the range that can do potentially what you're going to do. We do have ultra long range bikes that are available. Otherwise, carry a fast charger with you or carry a spare battery with you. You've got power with your bike, carrying a spare battery is a real option, and it's actually what a lot of our customers do as well in those situations. The market is now dividing into sort of the full power bikes and the lightweight bikes. Potentially a lightweight option is the better one for you because if you do run out of battery, you can still pedal it quite easily without it.
It's important to understand where you're riding and sort of the towns, the locations that you'll be going in advance, just to have an idea of what might be available. I had an instance a few years ago and I actually asked a local business whether they would charge my batteries overnight, and yes, it was without question, happily, because I was in their town providing income, and they happily charged my batteries overnight.
We did have to think about sometimes being in remote places because there's not always towns every 50 to 80 kilometres along the New South Wales coast, and sometimes we were travelling through national parks. We often stopped at cafes for lunch, morning and afternoon tea. On our Ocean Pool Odyssey, we were supported with our little gypsy caravan, and once again there were times where we didn't have power overnight, so we just made sure that we had an inverter in the caravan. We do have solar panels on it, so it can be uncharged for several days, but we then use that inverter to actually charge our e-bike batteries. So we were never in a situation where we didn't have to charge, and I can generally ride 2 or 3 days without a charge anyway, but most times you'll find somewhere to charge your batteries.
So that's a wrap, everybody. I hope you've learnt a little bit. I hope you're inspired to go riding. So if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to let us know, and we'd love to see you here trying out the bikes and even joining us on our Owners Club rides.